Hey, today I'll be talking about episodes 6 through 7 of RuYi's Royal Love. RuYi and the Emperor are still very much in love, and it's making the Empress angrier by the day. With no excuse to attack RuYi, she tells her lackey, Hui'S, to really amp up the pressure on Hailan, who is living with her. Hui already has Hailan living in a dirty little room instead of giving her proper accommodations, but she also makes sure Hailan never has enough coal or food and assigns her to random tasks with ridiculous time limits. Hailan doesn't want to bring RuYi into a fight with Hui, but she's also completely unable to defend herself. Though RuYi doesn't know exactly how bad her situation is, she does notice Hailan's low on coal and makes sure to send some of her own rations whenever she can. It would be nice if the Emperor took notice of anything that goes on in the harem, but he's busy with a music servant girl. He has her brought in to serve him, and she becomes the newest addition to the harem, Maid, second-class female attendant. The other women turn up their noses at her lowly background, but the Emperor likes her, and really that's all that matters. She's eventually brought in to meet the other women, and she immediately proves to be tougher than they expected. When Hui tries to get a dig in at her expensive outfit in defiance of the Empress's call for frugality, she responds that the Emperor likes seeing her like this.
可是皇上喜欢嫔妾这么穿呢。贵妃娘娘，那嫔妾是该听皇上的，还是皇后娘娘的？
Considering her low status and background, they were expecting a timid little flower, but that is not what they got. RuYi intends to keep a wide berth, but May approaches her directly. RuYi tries to brush her off, but she's persistent, and RuYi has no choice but to let her join her for a stroll in the gardens. She's nice enough to RuYi, but as soon as Hui spots them, the cattiness comes out again. Not that Hui doesn't start the argument, but May really has claws. Mid-argument, May makes a very pointed comment about Hui's age.
嫔妾能有什么手段勾引皇上？不过是年轻几岁罢了。
RuYi's expression is killing me. Hui tells her servant to teach her some respect. The Empress arrives in time to see May getting the life slapped out of her and looking very pitiful indeed. Considering Hui's personality and May's recent monopoly of the Emperor's time, it unavoidably looks like jealousy. May does a good job of turning her rude words earlier into innocent remarks, and even RuYi has to admit that, implication aside, the words themselves were technically innocent. She said she's younger than Hui. True. She said time passes by so quickly. Also true. Her performance is actually very believable, and her face just looks so innocent. I admit I would probably have fallen for this. Unfortunately for her, Hui is the Empress's main lackey, so despite May's convincing performance, the Empress still kind of takes Hui's side.
两相争执，就是彼此间都有错。
And with that, May's facade slips and she storms off without bowing goodbye to the Empress. She even hurts the Empress's maid. I can't stop laughing because her thought process is just, damn, that didn't work. And then she drops the act immediately. Like, you couldn't keep up the good girl act for another few days at least? Rather than have her brought back for further punishment, the Empress cautions Hui not to get involved and instead sends some cream for May's face. RuYi follows her home. She finds that May is using the expensive charcoal reserved for the higher-ranked women. May also makes an offhand remark that RuYi should understand what it's like having a crummy background considering the situation with her aunt. Okay, rude. When the Empress's maid arrives with the cream, May asks RuYi to check on the ointment before accepting it. In other words, she's saying the Empress might try to hurt her.
我还真不敢用。
Who raised this girl? It's not that she's wrong, but saying this kind of stuff out loud only serves to put a target on your back. If you don't trust it, smile, say thank you, and quietly chuck it in the trash. That's harem politics 101. The Empress's other maid, Lian Xin, is in a pickle. The Emperor's main eunuch, Eunuch Wang, is being really inappropriate with her, touching her and forcing gifts on her even though she's made it clear that she isn't interested. When she tries to tell the head maid, she pretty much tells her to let it go. As the Emperor's main eunuch, he has enough power to make even the Empress's life hard. The palace really needs an HR department. Hui finds out that RuYi is secretly sending Hailan coal. This does not affect her at all, but she's on a mission to make Hailan's life hell. When she complains to another consort about this, she suggests that she use it to her advantage and frame Hailan for stealing the coal. That night, someone comes to RuYi to report that Hailan is being punished for stealing. RuYi rushes over and finds Hailan stripped and begging for her life in the snow. Hui tells RuYi that Hailan was caught stealing expensive coal from her, making her cold worse. The proof is that they found the ashes in her trash and her maid confessed that she was ordered by Hailan to steal from Hui, as if it would be hard to threaten a maid into lying. RuYi begins to push back, asking her how much of her coal is missing and why it took so long to find out. Not to mention, Hailan lives in a tiny little room thanks to her. Where would she have been hiding all that coal? It doesn't matter though. It's not as if Hui doesn't know that Hailan is innocent. RuYi's maid Suoshin rushes off to get the emperor, and this is why everyone has to tiptoe around eunuch Wang. When Suoshin asks him to send a message to the emperor, he refuses. And that's it. With him blocking the door, there's literally no way for Suoshin to get any kind of message to the emperor, and later he can just make up any random excuse for why she wasn't allowed in. She's about to leave when a junior eunuch, Liu, tells her he will try and send her message. Hui gets crazier by the second, drunk on her power. She tells her servants to strip Hailan down further in case she's hiding any charcoal on her, and even sets her mind to punishing RuYi. Seeing RuYi is caught in the crossfire, Hailan changes her tune. They care so much about each other. Never have I been happier to hear. Hui pretends at lightheadedness when she remembers she's supposed to have a cold, and the emperor tells her to go inside, sending RuYi and Hailan off to get decent. In the main room, the emperor asks for Hui's side of the story.
偷了别的还好，可偏偏是臣妾冬日里必不能少的红罗毯。
It's impossible to look more pitiful than Hailan though. Look at this poor girl. RuYi starts to explain what happened and the emperor immediately cuts her off. He says she should have been more covert. When he asked her to secretly send some coal to Hailan, it was meant to be a secret, wink wink. RuYi gets what he's trying to do and apologizes for not saying anything sooner.
是，都是臣妾的不是。臣妾一心只记得皇上的叮嘱，不许外传，也交代了海常在，不想往外说了惹是非。
So there you have it. Hailan didn't steal anything. RuYi gave her the coal under the emperor's direction. Rather than quit while she's ahead, Hui decides to push it, asking for punishment for Hailan and RuYi since they were disrespectful earlier. Yeah, look at them disrespectfully begging for their lives. The emperor has had enough and tells his servants to beat Hailan's maid to death for lying about Hailan stealing coal. They wait in silence as she screams and begs and finally dies. He then, not so subtly, says that anyone else who decides to cause trouble will be dealt with accordingly. Hui finally takes the hint and shuts her trap. The emperor tells Hui to stay in her room to recuperate from her cold for the next 3 months. No need to serve him in bed since she's so weak. And since he doesn't want Hailan disturbing her rest, he tells her to go and live with RuYi.
臣妾谢过皇上。
Beautiful. Just beautiful. I don't love that the maid, who was clearly forced into lying, had to die such a gruesome death, but you really have to admire the emperor's style. This is when the difference between Suoshin and RuYi really starts to show. RuYi is all talk, but Suoshin actually acts in ways that benefit RuYi. RuYi was making a scene, screaming and begging for RuYi in the snow, but Suoshin actually went out and got help. Also, RuYi was pretty cold-hearted. She was so ready to throw Hailan under the bus, knowing full well that Hailan was innocent and only has RuYi to clear her name.
不能去。
除了皇后，贵妃的位分最高，没有人救得了海兰。
You could say this was to protect RuYi, but I think it's more selfish than that. After all, when RuYi suffers, everyone in her palace suffers with her, including RuYi. Anyway, it all worked out in the end. This plan could not have gone worse for Hui Guifei, and right in front of the Empress too. If this is what had to happen for Hailan and RuYi to be reunited, then so be it. Till next time, thanks for watching.
睡吧。